Welcome to Founded in Transcreation, the first ever podcast on transcreation, where we delve into how brands cross borders. But what is transcreation anyway? Well, it's the cross-cultural service often needed by brands attempting to cross borders with their messages and content and still resonate with locals, as well as elicit a specific response among the target culture. Transcreation, also referred to as trans-adaptation or rewriting, is often used as part of a brand's customer-centric marketing strategy in foreign markets. It's a creative service which combines sound knowledge of and an interdisciplinary skill set in translation, copywriting, content writing, marketing, and advertising. For example, transcreation is generally used to adapt slogans, taglines, product names, video games, full advertising campaigns, book and film titles, and websites, among other products, content, and text types. I always like to think of transcreation as a form of literary translation at the service of capitalism, since more often than not, the kind of messages that we transcreators will be asked to work on are full of challenging wordplay and figures of speech, such as alliteration, metaphors, rhyme, humor, rhythm, allusions, repetition, paradox, even irony, and more. Would you like to hear an example of a text subject to transcreation? Well, here's an example from Coca-Cola's campaign for the year 1988. Coca-Cola is it. This is certainly a phrase, slogan, Coca-Cola is it, worth transcreating, since in most languages, a literal translation would not do. It just wouldn't resonate with communities made up of non-English speakers. And what are slogans for, if not to make brands, their products and their commercials more memorable and friendly and appealing? As translated into Spanish, Coca-Cola is it became es sentir de verdad, which back translated into English would sound like it's feeling for real, or it's feeling actually, with it standing for Coca-Cola, the brand, meaning that, well, this fizzy drink and the moments you share with your loved ones equal feeling emotions like for real feelings. Why did Coca-Cola disappear, though, as a term within the slogan when it was rendered into Spanish varieties? Well, because the campaign slogan for 1988 used Robin Beck's song First Time for the TV commercial in English. Do you remember the song? I will try to sing, excuse me, I'm trying to sing a little bit. Drinking some water first. Well, so the song would go something like, first time, first love, oh, what feeling is this? Electricity flows with the very first kiss. All right, well, you get the song, right? You can look it up on the internet. You can listen to it. It's really, really beautiful. I really like the 80s, by the way. The 80s and the 90s. When it comes to music, but you know, back to the slogan, back to Coca-Cola, because the slogan would not only be a visual piece in the TV spot for Coca-Cola, and it actually had to fit in the music and the rhythmic pattern of Robin Beck's instrumentals, in most transcreations into Spanish, the campaign slogan just omitted the brand's name. Yes, the brand's name has been omitted from the tagline in the translation, not actually the translation, but the transcreation. Such as in our example where es sentir de verdad in Spanish for Argentina, that was used for the TV spot for Spanish in Argentina instead of, you know, the English verse Coca-Cola is it. So by the end of this spot, this commercial, that was quite long actually. The source in English would go like something like Coca-Cola is it, and that was the end. So in Spanish, while in English, you know, the end included the name and everything, in Spanish was something like es sentir de verdad, right? I mean, it had to fit into the same melody and rhythm and everything, and including Coca-Cola wouldn't have been really possible. So as you can see, advertising is the one key industry where translation may not be enough when it comes to helping a brand reach a new target audience outside its country or a culture of origin. In fact, you may actually get lost in translation when attempting to translate ad copy into a new language, unless you hire a linguist with further skills and competencies. You will probably want your branded messages to sound as cool and appealing and persuasive in your target language as they do in your source language. And for that, you will need a transcreator or a transcreation team, because now more than ever, you will need to reach hearts as well as minds. That is basically the purpose of transcreation, to have a target message evoke the same emotions, associations, and ultimately the same behavior as the source message did in the culture of origin. But who am I to talk about all this? Well, my name is Delfina Morganti Hernandez, and I am the creator and host of this podcast, Founded in Transcreation. On this first episode, I have just defined and exemplified transcreation as a service for brands willing to expand their reach and talk to their buyer personae in their language in a manner that will stay true to their own brand values and still be in tune with that new audience's cultural traits. So just in case you're wondering, I am based in Rosario, Argentina, and my native language is Spanish, but I am a big fan of English and French. I have been working as a marketing translator into Spanish for almost a decade now, and for 6 years and counting, I have been working as an English into Spanish for Latin America and Argentina transcreator and cultural consultant on a daily basis. My academic background is like a marketing mix. I have degrees in translation studies, literature, interpreting, marketing, and advertising. You see, there's not one single university course to do or degree to pursue for someone as in love with languages, writing, and creativity as me. So I had to create my own university path toward my career path so far. How do I use all this knowledge to do my job? Well, I connect the dots. As Steve Jobs would put it. I work in transcreation, which I think is the most interdisciplinary cultural service a translator can provide within the localization industry. I have like one foot in the marketing industry and another in the translation industry. Or maybe I sort of take turns all the time, and come and go whenever working on a slogan like the one I told you about. I transcreate all sorts of ad and marketing copy, from slogans and taglines to in-app ads, web banners, and blogs, for several different formats and media, in a variety of industries like video games, food and beverage, travel and hospitality, human resources, and other industries. But why have I called this a podcast, Founded in Transcreation? Well, it's a wordplay, actually, with the old catchphrases lost in translation and found in translation. But there is a slight twist or tweak or turn here in founded, where I am actually blending two verbs. I am blending the verb to find, as in I will look for you and I will find you. And that I have blended with the verb to found, typically used to tell a brand story, right? As in Coca-Cola was founded in 1892. Why this blending for a name, or for a podcast title for on transcreation? Well, because finding transcreation, having transcreation find me through a project request I got one day several years ago from a project manager, was a turning point in my career. It's where the big adventure began for me in the localization industry. When I discovered there was this thing called transcreation, I realized this was the service I was meant to specialize in due to my personality, my upbringing, my academic or / artistic background, and my purpose as a creative, as a human being. So from a very early age, I was influenced by art in several forms, from ballet dancing to fiction writing to the performing arts. These were all my hobbies, right? All connected with art somehow. I actually love creating and recreating stuff, and that's what transcreation as a service entails. Of a professional, right? You need to be a great translator. You need to know a lot of about grammar, spelling, language rules, but you also need to not be afraid of straying from the source in order to focus on creating a target message that excels, that will cause the same effect on the new audience as the source did on the original one. So the focus is again on recreating the effect. Personally, while I do work in marketing translation as part of my daily tasks, and I do love it, and I write a lot about marketing and branding. I even use hashtags like branding brain on LinkedIn. Writing is my actual calling in this world. I see translation as a form of writing, and I see transcreation as rewriting, and therefore transcreation is my way of combining both translation and writing, which results in what feels for me personally the best of both worlds, or my best of both worlds profession. So how did you like this first episode of Founded in Transcreation? Did you already know about transcreation as a service? And had you ever heard of Coca-Cola's campaign, Coca-Cola Is It? Ever tried to find out how the slogan had been used, rendered into other languages and cultures? Well, I'd really like to know your thoughts in the comments below, and please stay tuned for another episode of Founded in Transcreation, where you will be invited yet again to enter the realms of language and creativity and delve into how brands cross borders. So, if you've enjoyed this first episode of Founded in Transcreation, I really hope you stay tuned for the upcoming episode where we'll be discussing transcreation possibilities for certain slogans with a fellow transcreator into German. Stay tuned.